When we realized Hollywood would never tell our stories, we decided to launch our own storytelling platform, and you've showed us it's working. To end cancel culture and build a healthy, thriving America, we need to create our own economic community. That's why we must support Mike Lindell's MyPillow. They've shown their commitment to a culture of American excellence. For a limited time, Mike is offering his premium MyPillows for his lowest price ever. You can get a queen-size premium MyPillow for $29.98. Regularly $69.98, that's a $40 savings. Kings are only $5 more. And remember, these are made in the USA. Go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listener square and use promo code RED to let them know our Red Pilled America community supports MyPillow. You can also get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets, the mattress topper, and towel sets. Or you can call 800-872-0519 and use promo code RED. Let's stop cancel culture by supporting each other. Visit MyPillow.com and use the promo code RED right now.
It's time to tell our side of the story, but we need your help. Please share, like, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it. And please, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating. It helps us beat the big tech algorithm. Also, if you love Red Pilled America, please consider becoming a Backstage subscriber. For as little as $5 a month, you'll have access to our entire back catalog of episodes and our behind-the-scenes podcast. Just visit redpilledamerica.com and click support in the top menu. That's redpilledamerica.com and click support in the top menu. Support what you love or it goes away.
I often find myself saying, "What did they just say?" If you spend any time on social media or watching the news or just listening to people, you get the feeling that bad ideas are pretty widespread.
All white people are racist.
Not all boys have a penis and not all girls have a vagina.
Destroying property which can be replaced is not violence.
We have to say yes to socialism, to the word and everything.
The fact that as a nation we celebrate Abraham Lincoln's birthday and have whitewashed the exploits of a racist...
Many Americans seem to be brainwashed by odd beliefs. How did this happen? How have bad ideas become so widespread? I'm Patrick Corelchi.
And I'm Adriana Cortez.
And this is Red Pilled America, a storytelling show.
This is not another talk show covering the day's news. We are all about telling stories.
Stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear.
Stories the media mocks. Stories about everyday Americans that the globalists ignore.
You could think of Red Pilled America as audio documentaries, and we promise only one thing. The truth. Welcome to Red Pilled America.
How are you feeling about the current state of our country? Longtime listeners of Red Pilled America know that, since our inception, we've been warning about the dangers of giving up the culture.
Republicans abandon storytelling, art, academia, entertainment, music, literature, the institutions that define what it means to be American, and by doing so they allowed Marxists to pump their poison messages into the American bloodstream.
But there is a silver lining. Red Pilled America is the beginning of an antidote because we're pioneering the take-back of our culture. If we succeed, others will follow, and we'll create a symphony of storytellers that restores what it means to be American.
Please consider supporting the show by visiting redpilledamerica.com and clicking support or shop in the top menu. It's time to tell our side of the story, and with your help, we will continue to blaze the trail.
Visit redpilledamerica.com to help us continue the fight. Support what you love, or it goes away.
Bad ideas seem to be in high circulation. No matter where you turn, people appear to be brainwashed by a system of beliefs that are simply un-American. How did this happen? How have bad ideas become so widespread? To find the answer, we're going to follow the story of an artist that found himself under the spell of ideas that held him back, and how he finally broke free.
In our hyper-connected copycat world, it isn't often that someone creates something novel. But Akira the Don has done just that.
I was always way too ahead of my time.
That's Akira the Don.
And I was really wanting to not be too ahead of my time so that I could make a better life for my family, you know?
The good-looking, bleach blonde DJ music producer has been pioneering a type of music that takes the words of thought leaders like Jordan Peterson, Elon Musk, and Scott Adams and marries them with lo-fi hip-hop beats that matches the rhythm of their speech. The result is a message-infused music he calls meaning wave, and it's a sound that was a long time in the making. Akira the Don entered this world from across the pond.
I was born in the Midlands, the middle bit of the UK.
When he was around 2 years old, his family moved to the small community of Snowdonia, which is a valley in Wales.
And everyone spoke Welsh and no one spoke English, so I was a bit confused. But it was cool because, you know, it was very beautiful and everything looked like Lord of the Rings. It was very, very small. The first school I went to, you had 2 years taught in one class because there was just hardly anyone there, you know.
Akira actually took a liking to music while he was still in the womb.
Apparently, I used to kick along in my mum's tummy to Adam and the Ants and Tom Petty and shit like that. I would like start kicking like rhythmically when that stuff would come on. My dad was really into music, and you know how it is. You always look up to your dad. You know, he was a bit of a sort of distant kind of guy sometimes, but with music, you know, when he would sit there and play music, and I was really interested. Like, he really loved that I was interested, and there was a connection there. And he used to sit me down. You know, he'd take me up to the attic. I remember I was like 7. He'd be like, get out a box of Motown records and be like, all right, son, this is Motown, or like a box of like new wave or punk records and be like, this is punk, or this is whatever, you know. And I treasured that shit and I loved it.
His father introduced him to artists like Billy Bragg, a folk punk artist whose music was infused with socialist ideas. Aspects of the artist's ideology were seeded in his brain at a young age, and they formed the lens through which he'd see the world. As he grew up, he was drawn to youth music and the look that accompanied it. But in his neighborhood, that style was considered an oddity.
Literally, in the UK, I'd walk around and people would stop a car and wind down the window and throw some shit at me and shout, faggot.
But it wasn't just his look that was causing him grief. There was also something about the nature of the British system that began to knot him as well.
They have this thing in the UK, it's like, you're not supposed to get above your station.
Akira's parents were both born in UK slums.
You're not supposed to transcend your meager origins. If you're working class, you're supposed to stay there. You know what I mean? They have this tall poppy syndrome thing.
The tall poppy syndrome is a phenomenon where people mock those who think highly of themselves. In essence, they're cutting down the tall poppy.
And my realization was that in the UK, we got a monarchy, right? So there's this level that you can never transcend, and you know it's there. So on a subconscious level, you always know that you ain't shit really, and you should just stay where you are.
It was likely this class structure that pushed Akira to daydream about the States.
I was always just fascinated by America, and it always kind of stood for the things that I believed in. In America, it's like any motherfucker could be president, is what they tell you. So a waitress in America is always on their way to something great, and that's why they treat you nice. In the UK, a waitress will spit in your drink and glare at you, because they know that that's where they are forever, and that's that.
As his 16th birthday approached, Akira left home and embarked on a series of adventures in the UK. He dabbled in music journalism, then eventually picked up music making. He was creating hip-hop music that just wasn't being made at the time, and the Brits weren't really digging his vibe.
I was making weird rap music, and it was like, people like me weren't supposed to make rap music at that point. I was kind of doing rock-influenced stuff and wearing like makeup and shit, and being quite glam. And talking about my actual life rather than pretending to be some kind of gangbanger or something, you know? Which at that time, it just wasn't done.
Of course, white artists rapping about things other than the hood would later become a popular hip-hop niche. But in the late 90s, Akira the Don was ahead of the times. By the turn of the millennium, he wasn't sure where he should go with his music next. That's when an American rock band began to make waves in his neck of the woods.
Thanks again. I want to thank everyone for coming here tonight. You guys have been really nice to us in England since we got here.
You know, the Strokes really blew up in the UK because people in the UK were like, hey, these guys are really cool. They're American. Oh my goodness. But no one gave a shit about them in New York, I realized, because I had friends over there. But anyway, so I thought, shit, maybe if I go to America, they'll think I'm cool.
The idea percolated. Akira continued pushing his career in the UK. He made a mixtape in 2003 and released it online when no one else was doing it. It got over 1 million downloads. So from the boost from this internet hype, in 2004, Akira decided to take the plunge. He begged his bank into lending him money to buy a plane ticket to the US.
And I arrived in Miami with no money whatsoever. And within 2 weeks, I was being signed to Interscope Records. And Jimmy Iovine from Interscope was telling me that I was going to do some rap music, what the Beatles did to rock music.
After he signed to the label, Akira says he immediately began to see the strange economics of the music industry.
And they would do weird stuff like try and get me to spend my money on cocaine. And I didn't want to, because I didn't want to do any cocaine, and they were really perturbed by this. And then they would do weird stuff like, if I had to go to an airport, they'd hire a limo. I'd be like, I don't need a limo. And they're like, just take the limo. It's like, all right. And all this weird stuff, and it's, you know, it's their money. They pretend it's your money, but it's all a loan, right? And they do this weird stuff like they want you to record in their recording studios, so they like double dip on the money. They didn't want to allow me to spend my advance money on building a home studio. They were trying to stop me doing that because they wanted to retain complete control over everything you're doing, you know?
He tried to ignore the dark side of the industry and began making his first album.
It was about being an individual. It was about the importance of being an individual. It was about standing up for your individuality in the face of a world that wants to turn you into fucking the same thing as everyone else, you know? So, but then what happened was they didn't like my lyrics, you know? They wanted me to change the lyrics. I had a song called Thanks for All the AIDS, you know? That was like talking about Bob Geldof and Live Aid being hypocrites and stuff.
Bob Geldof was a songwriter and producer behind the hit song, Do They Know It's Christmas?
And they're like, you know, you need to change these lyrics. And I was like, Busta Rhymes was on that record label at that time, and he'd recorded 3 albums for them, and they wouldn't put them out. They didn't like his lyrics either, you know? I was like, shit, if Busta Rhymes can't get his record put out here, what am I doing?
As Akira was seeing the realities of corporate music making, the entire industry was imploding. The MP3 was making the CD obsolete, and music sales were plummeting.
Just in this short time I was with them, most of their A&R department got sacked. It was just as the whole Napster thing was really kicking in.
So after about a year of trying to work with the corporate system, Akira decided he wanted out.
One of my songs was in that movie, My Super Ex-Girlfriend. So I took the money I got from that and I bought the rights to the album back and went independent. And then since then was this long process of kind of building this independent machinery and essentially building a kind of parallel music industry.
The music industry was collapsing, but at the same time, the technology was removing the need for a major record label.
You know, I was one of the first people like making records without machinery and distributing them and having a career and being able to survive just doing that outside of that machine.
So he decided to get back to his roots. Akira the Don returned to the UK and continued making music. He plugged away for about 7 years, building a parallel music industry. He also began experimenting with his sound by infusing hip-hop beats with the spoken word audio of people that inspired him, people like famed comic book writer Grant Morrison. As he evolved his sound, the glass ceiling of Great Britain's class system continued to bother him, so he turned his eyes back to the US.
Around 2012, 2013, I came out to Vegas because Grant Morrison, who's a comic book writer, he had this festival out in Vegas, and he had me and Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance come out and do the music. And I dropped in on my friend, an old friend of mine who lived in Los Angeles, on the way back. And I just had such a wonderful time. And it'd be like, I'd just walk down the street and people would stop their cars and be like, hey, you look cool. What are you doing? We're going to a party. Come and do this party or whatever. And I DJ'd a few places and everyone loved it. And everyone was just so nice. All these crazy ideas I had and my general sort of sunny, optimistic disposition was met warmly. But in the UK, they ain't like that.
Juxtaposing his life experience in Great Britain with what he'd experienced in Los Angeles reminded him of something he'd recently read.
And I was reading this Charles Bukowski short story collection at the time. And there's a story where he talks about he goes to some orgy and like someone tries to stab him or something. And like he tries to get with a girl and then a guy tries to jump in and he's not happy about this. And he has all this, and he has some messed up time and he goes back and he vomits all over his house and he goes to bed. Wakes up the next afternoon, it's like midday, he gets up, he takes a piss. He goes back to bed, he draws the blinds and says, life is as kind as you let it be. I was like, oh shit, yeah, good point. I don't need to be here in the UK where shit is miserable and people throw bricks at me and I'm constantly banging my head against the wall and everyone thinks what I'm doing is weird and like it's raining all the time and fucking there's princes and queens and stupid shit running around like it's fucking like it's medieval England or some shit. Like I could go over there where it's sunny and everyone seems like excited to do things. You know what I mean? And so that's what I did. I had a word with my wife and we just had a kid. And it was like, you know, what do we want for our future? What do we want for our kids' future? What do we want for our dynasty? You know what I mean? What kind of environment?
America was calling.
we agreed that it was the right thing to do. It was a hard thing to do. Getting into this country legally is very, very difficult and very, very expensive. And staying here for any period of time is very, very difficult and very, very expensive. And, I didn't have anything going on. I didn't have any money. I came over here and I slept on a friend's sofa and got DJ gigs and just kind of like built myself up. And while my wife and son spent most of the first year sleeping in like a small room at her mum's house, while I got enough work and things together so I could then get them out here, and eventually we were able to get our first one-bedroom flat.
Now in America, he felt the freedom to experiment more with his music. Until one night, while unwinding after Miley Cyrus stole his phone charger, he stumbled on a sound that he'd been unconsciously developing for 15 years. And in the process, he'd practically invent a new genre of music. More after the break.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Would you like to get paid to work out, eat right, and look your best? Now you can with ISSA, the global leader in personal fitness certification. You're already going to the gym and eating the right foods. Why not make it your part or full-time job? You can earn great money and make a real difference in the lives of your clients, friends, and family. And right now, ISSA is guaranteeing you will get a job. That's right, there's a huge demand for personal trainers. So once you get ISSA certified, they guarantee you will get a job. Just text START to 323232 to get started for free. Do everything at your own pace and 100% online. Get certified and train like you want, full-time or as a side hustle, whatever works for you. ISSA creates experts in fitness, wellness, and healthy living. So don't wait another day to start your career in fitness. Get certified and start making money fast. Guaranteed. Text the word START to 323232 to get started for free. Text START to 323232.
Support for this podcast comes from Wild Turkey Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Let's tune in to their one-on-one with Jamal, a real bartender from Old Fourth Ward in Atlanta.
I really get into the backstory of whatever I'm pouring, out of respect. There are literally years of experience behind these bottles. Wild Turkey, same recipe since 1942. If you want a true classic, this is what you want to order.
Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey Distilling Company, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Copyright 2020, Campari American, New York, New York. Never compromise, drink responsibly.
If you haven't had licorice from the Licorice Guy yet, what are you waiting for? The Licorice Guy is the perfect candy for those home movie nights. Trust me, I know licorice and it doesn't get any better than the Licorice Guy. What sets their licorice apart is its freshness and its flavor. This isn't anything like the store-bought stuff that's hard enough to break a tooth. They offer jumbo licorice sticks that come in nostalgic dime store flavors like red, black, chocolate, cinnamon, and blue raspberry. The Licorice Guy is an American family-owned business, and we love having them as part of our Red Pilled America tribe. Right now, our listeners will get 15% off when they enter RPA15 at checkout. Visit licoriceguy.com and enter RPA15 at checkout. That's licoriceguy.com. They ship daily, and each bag is only $5. Treat yourself and taste the difference. Welcome back. So Akira the Don got tired of the class structure of the UK that created a permanent glass ceiling for the common man. After a trip to America, he decided to move his family to the States and continue to experiment with his music. Until one night, while unwinding after Miley Cyrus stole his phone charger, he stumbled on a sound that he'd been unconsciously developing for 15 years. And in the process, he'd practically invent a new genre of music.
So when I was first starting, I was making these mixtapes, and there'd be some rap songs, and I'd be rapping, and then I'd have a beat, and then I'd just like put like Jack Kirby, who's the guy who invented the Marvel Universe, and I'd put him just talking for 3 minutes. People used to do stuff like that on rap albums for like 15 seconds, It'd be like a skit, or it'd be a bit at the beginning of a song. But I'd be like, I'd just do like the whole thing. I'd have like a 3-4 minute thing, and I'd have a guy, a sample of someone talking. And I'd make it a bit rhythmic sometimes, like chop bits of it up so it almost had like a chorus or something. So that was just something I always did occasionally. And then in 2017, I think it was, I was DJing in Hollywood, and I was DJing in all these really bougie like places, like where the Kardashians would go and shit like that. I come back from DJing. I've been DJing at Wiz Khalifa's in my booth, just like blowing smoke in my face all day, and I couldn't see shit. And I'm like, I come back at like 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm like stoned from Wiz Khalifa's secondhand smoke, and like Miley Cyrus had stolen my charger and all this ridiculous shit, you know. And I'd come back, and you try and decompress from that ridiculous world. You've got a wife and a kid, you know, and like you're, you know, engaging in being a responsible grown-up, and you're surrounded by this Hollywood lunacy, and it's quite weird. So decompressing from that, I'd always come back and I'd put on lectures and stuff. I'd have this big projector and I'd put on lectures, and Jordan Peterson comes on, and he was talking about the importance of hierarchies, of competence.
You hear the egalitarian clarion call everywhere. Everything should be equal. Everything should be equally distributed. We should strive for equity. It's like, wrong. What we want are just hierarchies of competence. Not everyone's a neurosurgeon. If your father has a brain tumor, you probably want a hierarchy of competence for neurosurgeons, so you can pick the one that's the best, so that he might not die. That's what a hierarchy of competence is for. For the postmodernists, there's no hierarchy that isn't based on power. Well, because they think the world runs on power. And that's why they're willing to use power to get what they want, because it's the only thing they believe in. But a valid hierarchy of competence, it's God, we need those things, man. We need the best plumbers. We need the best contractors. We need the best carpenters. We need the best lecturers. There has to be a hierarchy of quality, and not only so that we know who the best are and can reward them properly, but so that we can reward them so they keep being the best. It's like, you know, if you have a great educator, if you have a great leader, if you have a great thinker, you want to reward them so they keep thinking and they keep educating so they can tell you something. It's not a reward for their intrinsic being. It's a calculated move on your part to suck everything out of them that's valuable as fast as you can. That's what a hierarchy of competence is for.
And he came on talking about the importance of hierarchies of competence. And, you know, he's like, be a plumber, you know, be a good one. We don't need people to cause problems, you know, we need people to solve problems.
If you're going to be a plumber, man, be a good plumber. Because otherwise all you do is go out there and cause trouble. We don't need people to cause more trouble. We need people to solve problems. You know, and so you can be a tradesman, and you can make a lot of money as a tradesperson. It's a bloody, reliable, honorable, forthright, productive way of making a living. And there is a hell of a lot of difference between a working man who knows what he's doing and one who doesn't, both in terms of skill and ethics, right? And you work with someone who knows what they're doing, it's a bloody pleasure. They tell you what they're going to do, they tell you how much it will cost, they go and do it, it works, and you pay them. Perfect. Everyone's happy. And that's what happens when you have genuine hierarchies of competence.
He's talking about the importance of picking an honest thing to do and doing it really, really well. And I really resonated with my half-stone self at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I need to turn that into a song immediately. And I turned it into a song.
We need to know who the competent people are, and we need to reward them. And even more importantly, we need to tell young people, hey, there's some hierarchies of competence out there. Like 1,000 of them. Go be a plumber, man. But be a good one, you know? Be an honest one. Because otherwise all you do is go out there and cause trouble. We don't need people to cause more trouble. We need people to solve problems. Solve problems. Solve problems. We need people to solve problems. Solve problems.
Plenty of hip-hop artists have used short spoken word samples in their music, and electronic music producers like David August occasionally employed the technique as well. But what Akira the Don was doing was a much bigger commitment to the style. He was learning that there was an inherent rhythm in the way good speakers spoke. He'd also rediscovered something he'd learned as a teenager.
I realized very early that music was incredibly powerful.
Before he'd left school when he was 16, he'd record himself reading his class notes over ambient music, then played them back when he went to sleep.
I always knew that if you combined something with music, you could integrate it way easier. It was like this hack.
In other words, if you could fuse a meaningful statement with music, you could hack the human brain and implant ideas, powerful ideas. Marrying this realization with this new approach to music caused an awakening moment for Akira.
My parents are both like socialist types, you know, and we used to listen to Billy Bragg when I was little.
As we mentioned earlier, Billy Bragg is an English singer-songwriter and far-left activist that infused socialist ideas into his music.
And I used to love Billy Bragg. These wonderful melodies and this ridiculous voice. Billy Bragg singing about like just the very concept of making money is inherently evil, while simultaneously being a rich rock star, obviously. But he just brainwashed me into being broke for most of my life. You don't think about it when you're a kid. You know what I mean? And then it goes in and then it just wires you into this thing. And I had such a terrible association with money and success that I realized in retrospect, I completely sabotaged my own career multiple times every time I started to get to a certain level. At one point, Coca-Cola wanted to offer me shitloads of money to use one of my songs. And I was like, oh, that's evil. You know, like any kind of opportunity that would come along. And I'm not saying now, by the way, that I would give my music to Coca-Cola, but I'm saying that I would just outhand reject any kind of situation that would come close to getting me anywhere near any kind of monetary success, purely out of the programming, most of which was done through music. Unprogramming myself from this ridiculous ideology that I was programmed with through music was one of the most difficult things I ever did.
Akira saw that, if put in the wrong hands, marrying a catchy melody with a bad message could spread evil. But this same technique could also be used as a force for good. It was a life-altering realization. If he could use the same approach, but instead saturate his music with positive motivational affirmations, it could improve humanity. He knew he was onto something. Akira called his music Meaning Wave, and the new approach just flowed right out of him.
It was very, very simple, joyful process, and it came out just like I had it in my mind, you know? And then people liked it. People really liked it. And I was like, okay, I'll do some more of this. So I did some more of that, and people loved it.
He produced other songs using Jordan Peterson's messages.
Yeah, and I just realized very, very quickly the potential of power of it, and I took James Altish's advice to just go all in and refine this and just how could I make it more and more powerful. And I had this whole grand narrative I wanted to go through that was essentially the school I wanted to go to.
From an early age, Akira enjoyed the superhero universes of comic books. He wanted to create something similar for his motivational music.
And so I had this like cast of humans who had all these various keys. You know, I used to think about it like sort of shoulder angels, like you're out there in the world and like you get a cartoon angel pop up, you know. You have a situation where you look over there and Jordan Peterson's saying this, and you look over there and Jocko Willink's saying that, and you look over there and Alan Watts is saying the other thing, and you look over there and there's Marcus Aurelius from 2,000 years ago, and he's got this insight, and Plato's over there and he thinks this, and Robert Anton Wilson's over there and he thinks that, and Terence McKenna's there and he thinks that. And I had all these things and all these people I was interested in.
He viewed them all as his cast of superheroes that he wanted others to learn from. Their teachings represented a kind of school he wanted to attend. But to tell this grand narrative, he thought there needed to be a progression.
And I knew I couldn't just do it all straight away. I approached it a bit like the way that the Marvel universe. I basically realized that what I wanted to build this Meaning Wave universe that was going to tell this epic story and essentially integrate the wisdom of the ages into this psychotechnology, which people could use to integrate all of this stuff that normally you'd have to be one person studying a whole lifetime to get. But I realized this was an opportunity right now at this juncture in history for us essentially to become superhumans by being able to do that Neo in the Matrix, I know Kung Fu thing. You could literally do that. You could listen to a podcast once or twice, right? But if you turn that podcast into a pop song, you can listen to that thing fucking a million times. And then you'll integrate that. You will know it. You'll think about it. And then one day you'll be on the treadmill or something. You'll be like, oh shit, now I understand. You know, I get people write to me every day saying, oh, I've been listening to this Alan Watts album of yours for 2 years. I just understood what he meant or whatever, you know? So anyway, it was like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to tell this story and there's these things I need to get to and I've got to do it in an order. It's got to be found. The way the Marvel Universe start with Iron Man, you don't start with Doctor Strange. That's some weird shit, right? You start with something that's relatable and feels like it could happen in the world. You know, so I start with Jordan Peterson.
He expanded out to other speakers, like entrepreneur and investor Naval Ravikant, retired Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, and comedian Joe Rogan.
Akira. He's got clout. Everybody's different. Everybody's similar, but everybody's different. And your attitude has a giant effect, not just on your life, but on other people's lives around you. That's the other thing about it. Those I can't catch a break guys, get them the fuck away from me. I can't be around those guys. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that that shit. Get them the fuck.
Akira discovered a powerful mind hack that many with perverted ideologies have been using for decades to program the masses. And that hack is, if you imbue a catchy tune with a message, that message is quietly seated in the mind of the listener.
Because everybody has bad breaks. I've had a shit ton of bad breaks. But you know what I did? Stayed up.
Seeing this phenomenon was part of my personal awakening. When I realized how the media, Hollywood, and music industries used racial tensions to gain power, it made me revisit the content I'd consumed throughout the years. And one band from my college days stuck out. A group called Brand Nubian. This 90s hip-hop band spoke about empowering the black community, a seemingly positive message about a culture I felt connected to through growing up in an all-black neighborhood. As a young 20-year-old, I knew every word of their debut album, One for All. But when I revisited the album 2 decades later, I'd realized that while mouthing their lyrics, I was actually rapping about the demise of American culture, and I didn't even realize it. Brand Nubian talked about the white man as the devil that needed to basically be destroyed. I really wasn't even paying attention to the meaning in the song. I just thought it sounded cool. And you see, that's why it's so important to imbue movies, books, and music with positive messages, because these stories go on to create American culture. The ideology that Brand Nubian got white folks to sing would become the same ideology that justified the Black Lives Matter riots of 2020. As Akira the Don was expanding on his Meaning Wave universe from his studio in downtown Los Angeles, he began to see the signs that everything that he loved about the City of Angels was about to change.
I had a studio in downtown Los Angeles, and by the time I left there, the place was just swarming with smackheads and crackheads and filth and horror. I'd literally like step out my studio and there's a guy pooping in the street. I remember the first time I saw that guy, I look across the road and there's a fashion show going on. You know, and they're filming this fashion show, right? On the other side of the road is a sneaker store called Nice Kicks, and people are queuing up to get this new Yeezy drop. And then in the middle of the road, there's a guy pooping. And everyone's pretending that guy isn't there. And I thought, this kind of says everything about what's going on with this city, you know?
A few years later, major cities all across America began to burn, and Los Angeles was hit especially hard.
Many moments of fear and violence throughout Los Angeles today.
Yes, clashes all day between protesters and police.
The protests turned violent as police vehicles were set on fire near Pan Pacific Park in the Fairfax district.
I'm doing a live stream. I'm in Melrose, and my son and wife come up and they're scared, you know? I was like, what's going on? And I open the door and my studio fills with smoke, and there's a building just over there. They've set fire to the whole building, you know? I look out my window and there's literally outside my window these Antifa types are like organizing. They got their cars parked there. They're pulling all their shit out there and all that type of thing. You know, I live off Melrose. It was like the shopping center of Los Angeles. Everyone goes there to get their cool clothes. You know, I used to go down there and I'd meet members of Odd Future. When I first came to LA, it was an exciting place. You'd meet fun musicians, and none of them gave a fuck about any of this ideological stuff that they care about now. At that point, it was gone. I remember those cats, they'd laugh at the idea of racism. It was just like kids of every different kind of denomination, and they like rock music, rap music, everything. They thought that was some dumb shit that their parents cared about, and they didn't give a shit about it. And to watch that forced back into culture and weaponized in such an aggressive fashion between like late 2012 and then what it became in 2020, it was just an incredible thing to witness, because it was gone amongst us.
Which leads us back to the question, how have bad ideas become so widespread in America? The answer is that people with bad ideas got monopoly control of the machines that feed our minds. These anti-American forces took control of Hollywood, the media, the publishing industry, education, and music, and then pumped their poison into our bloodstream. It's truly the source of most of our problems. As Akira the Don's studio filled with smoke, these bad ideas seeped into his home in more ways than one.
You know, I'm out there with my kid, and he's like, what's Bullum? I don't like Bullum. And he's like seeing BLM written on everything, and all these people are smashing everything, and they're all pissed off and angry. And I'm like, I shouldn't be having to explain shit like this to my 7-year-old.
Within a matter of months, he packed up his family and moved to Texas.
And my son is able to run around outside and breathe like a human being.
Now Akira is busy creating music to help reverse the damage.
What is the way out? And that's again part of what I'm doing with Meaning Wave, is creating the ways out. I focus on the culture side of it, and I'm actively making stuff that transcends political stuff and could be useful to and enjoyed by anybody.
As Andrew Breitbart once said, politics is downstream of culture. Every time you hear about another ridiculous cultural norm, understand that the only way out of this mess is to create stories, create films, create books, create music, create the things that define our culture, and imbue those things with truth. Then flood Americans with that antidote, because the ideological poison plaguing American minds doesn't stand a chance against the truth.
To support Akira the Don, visit his website, meaningwave.com, where you'll find an awesome album called The User Interface for Reality that was inspired by a Red Pilled America episode. Red Pilled America is an iHeartRadio original podcast. It's produced by me, Adriana Cortez, and Patrick Corelchi for Inform Ventures. Now, our entire archive of episodes is only available to our Backstage subscribers. To subscribe, visit redpilledamerica.com and click support in the top menu. Thanks for listening.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Would you like to get paid to work out, eat right, and look your best? Now you can with ISSA, the global leader in personal fitness certification. You're already going to the gym and eating the right foods. Why not make it your part or full-time job? You can earn great money and make a real difference in the lives of your clients, friends, and family. And right now, ISSA is guaranteeing you will get a job. That's right, there's a huge demand for personal trainers. So once you get ISSA certified, they guarantee you will get a job. Just text START to 323232 to get started for free. Do everything at your own pace and 100% online. Get certified and train like you want, full-time or as a side hustle. Whatever works for you. ISSA creates experts in fitness, wellness, and healthy living. So don't wait another day to start your career in fitness. Get certified and start making money fast. Guaranteed. Text the word START to 323232 to get started for free. Text START to 323232.